1 second, everybody. Just got to do the usual for our amazing sponsors here. Give me 1 sec.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
All right, folks, we're back at it. And I'm not going to sit here and spend the entire next 40 to 50 minutes going on a complete hot-headed rant. There will be ranting involved in this post-game segment. This will definitely be another vent session. This will kind of be a feeler of where Mets fans are currently at in their fandom right now. And I'm going to break down not only what transpired inning by inning as the Mets managed for a second straight day to record 3 home runs, something in which since the year of 1901, the Mets and baseball as a whole have won 78% of their baseball games when hitting 3 or more home runs. The Mets have done each of those things in the past 2 days and have lost both those games because they are the New York Mets. The Mets will wrap up now their road trip with a 2-6 record. They sit 7 games below 500. They are now 1-23 since Francisco Alvarez went down with injury, and the Mets have won just 1 series since then. There are a lot of reasons as to why the Mets currently are where they're at, and now the big question is, should they actually blow it up? I'm going to get into the pros and the cons for why you should have optimism still this season as a Mets fan, things to look forward to, and why you should have pessimism. So we're going to play both sides of the coin here in today's live show, as I have so much to break down, not only inning by inning here, where Jose Quintana was great until he wasn't. The offense was solid early, but then, of course, faltered when we need them to step up most. The bullpen did not do the Mets any favors today for the most part. As we take a look at also here briefly, everybody, as you're making sure to smash that like and subscribe button as you first chime in, and thank you all so much in advance for doing so. We'll take a look at the hitting stat. We'll take a look at the pitching stats here, break down my analysis, along with my man Isaac Rothman. As always, we'll get into the offense too, what I liked, what I didn't like today on the offensive going, and then we'll take a word from our amazing sponsors here, folks. But we have a lot to get into. I'm not going to beat around the bush with this one. This has been an absolutely horrendous, a god-awful stretch of baseball for the Mets. And this goes now back. We are looking at a solid month plus now of baseball where the Mets have just been absolutely putrid. I told you guys this from the beginning, from the absolute beginning. Francisco Alvarez's injury was going to hurt this Mets team in more ways than you could possibly fathom. And unfortunately, that reality has reached itself now as the Mets, again, are over 10 games below 500 since losing Alvarez to injury. We do have a positive Alvarez update to get into here in a second, which I'm excited to share with you all. And that does stem in hand with why there's still optimism for the Mets this season. As crazy as it is to say, even 7 games below 500, folks, 7 effing games below 500, they're only 3 games out of a playoff spot. That is exactly why this is a marathon, not a sprint, and that's exactly why we need to view both the short-term reaction and the long-term reaction, the long-term vision, which is the Mets for the entire course of a 162 season. We are going to get into it all and then some, folks, but everyone first chiming in live on our replay. Thank you all so much for being here. Please stop, blow it up. Ray, I'm sorry to tell you that, again, it's not going to be as clear-cut or as easy as you think. I'm going to tell you guys what exactly the Mets can do if they decide to abruptly blow it up and what that would mean for the team. And then I'm going to also tell you what they're more than likely going to do, which will be a mixture of what you want and what you don't want from the Mets right now. But I can assure you that more changes will be had with this Mets team, because David Stearns cannot look at this team 7 games below 500 and see them continue to trend downward when there are ways to combat this to a degree. I'm not saying the Mets are going to have all the answers pulled right out of their ass. That, of course, will never happen for this team, but there are adjustments that can and hopefully will be made, and we'll get into what exactly those can be here shortly into the live show. I see Shrek and great member, is always happy to have you in here. John, great member, appreciate everyone again for chiming in. If you're watching this on replay too, make sure to let me know your biggest takeaway down below, not only to this series defeat, being swept for the first time in history by the Cleveland Indians turned Guardians now, but ultimately let me know what is your biggest takeaway in this horrendous 2-6 road trip for the Mets, in which they are well below 500 here in the month of May and are doing themselves no favors whatsoever to get on the right foot to have proper play going forward here this season. Again, a lot to break down here shortly, folks, so before I get into it all, give me 1 second. I do have some updates to share with you all regarding Francisco Alvarez, among others. I also want to make sure that I have everything properly set up here on Twitter, so give me 1 second to do exactly that. And again, thank you all so much for your patience. I know us New York Ranger fans as well, we got a big game here. The Eastern Conference Finals begins tonight. That is what a lot of hockey fans' priorities are, including my own. As soon as we're done here with the live show, shout out my Ranger fans out there. I know our Knicks are done, but the Rangers are still out there, so we will get into all that before we wrap up the show. We'll talk about our amazing sponsors as they can go in hand with tonight's slated games as well. But let me just make sure, because we're both live here on YouTube and Twitter. So for my Twitter viewers, hit that like button, hit that retweet button, hit that follow button. But no, I will only be interacting with our live viewers here on YouTube per usual. Just want to make sure we have everything set up there. I do believe that we do. Okay, folks, let's start off the show with at least a positive, right? You still have to watch during the bad stretches. I can't even watch right now. It's awful. I know it is. And I guess that's the one positive for some of you guys chiming in today. If you didn't bother watching today's game, it's recaps and breakdowns like this that can help prevent you from doing yourself by going through misery of 2.5 hours of the Mets losing, when you can just come here to chime in for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, however long you want to be part of it, and hear what you want to hear and then be on the way out. And that's perfectly fine. Again, trust me when I say I wish I could just, turn a blind eye to when the Mets play bad, but not only as a diehard fan, it's impossible for me to do that, but I cover them every single day for a living. So we're not going to switch up. Nothing's going to change here on the channel. The show must go on. The same way I'm here to tell you right now, folks, this show, whatever the hell you want to call it, more so a shit show here in Queens, needs to come to an end. I am in favor of not only changes being made, I expect changes to be had here in the short-term future. And furthermore, if changes don't be had and no positive things trend upward, I will be the first to tell each and every one of you exactly why this is a major problem and why the Mets are not going in the right direction for a season where, again, you're still in a transitionary year pushing for playoffs. There is a way where the Mets can mismanage this season, even if, again, they're doing everything on par with their future vision for 2025 and beyond. There are still ways to fumble this thing, and we're going to get into exactly how they have been fumbling it to this point. Again, 7 games below 500. And for the notion of fans saying, oh, the Mets want to lose, I promise you, the front office does not want to lose. Anyone that thinks that Steve Cohen, David Stearns have this already pre-built mentality that, oh, they have always had the full intentions to lose big this season, that was never the case. What they are fully intending on is pushing for playoffs, and again, kind of reevaluating things as we get closer to the deadline. But now here we are 7 games below 500, so you can't even say, let's wait till we get closer to the deadline. No, you need to make some significant changes and fast if you want to make sure that you're not 10 games below 500, 15 games below 500. All it takes is 2 more weeks of bad baseball for the Mets to dig themselves out of a hole that they will not be able to get themselves out of. It is not that difficult to dig yourself deep into a hole, but it's all that much more difficult to dig yourself out of it. And you might be wondering, Wardy, you know what? It's a 162 season. It isn't too difficult to get out of ruts. That might be true. The Mets handled their 0-5 start with ease with that 12-3 run. But to have a 12-3 run more than once in a season, let alone at all consistently for a Mets team that is fantastic at being consistently inconsistent, I would rightfully argue that, again, if they find themselves 10 games below 500, that might just be it for the season, folks. That might just be too deep of a hole for them to get themselves out of, even with a long 162. And again, we're going to get into why exactly that might be the case here. Yoshima, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that. Mets are done. We'll get into it. The Mets are cooked and everything in between, because right now they're playing like a team that is not only cooked, but is deep fried so effing bad that there is a beautiful crunch as soon as you bite in. Again, it's juicy, it's great, but that thing is deep fried, just like the Mets are cooked at the moment. Yoshima with the $5 holla says, as much as it sucks right now, we have to remember this is how weak the NL is this year. All it takes is one winning streak to be right back in it. You are 1,000% right, Yoshima, and we're going to get into that shortly. I appreciate you chiming in. Thank you so much for the donation. At this point, dude, I'm not really watching games, so I'm still tuning into you, my dude. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. I know we got OG members as well that have been doing the exact same thing, so I appreciate every single one of you guys going out of your way to listen to me break down, and I have a lot that I really need to let off my chest with this one. Not only the result of tonight's game, how we got there, and again, what is the future of the Mets here right now? 7 games below 500. Is it fully time to blow it up? Will they blow it up? Could it be something in between? Again, we're going to go through those pros and cons here shortly. AZ with the $2 holla says, Payne should be a Mets trade. It absolutely is. I mean, you might as well. I'm actually taken back and curious why, like Pepto and acid, like these things aren't, the biggest biggest sponsors that the Mets have, because Mets fans probably use them more than any other fan in baseball, with the way that this team makes your stomach churn. You get ridiculous heartburn by watching them every single day because you're getting heart palpitations because you don't know if you're going to win or lose. And in a game you think you're going to win, the Mets are going to do everything they can to make sure the opposing team gets back in it. So yeah, we're going to vent big time here. I got my man Jordan Simpson in the chat. I got to finish the recap song. I know you do, brother. Jordan, appreciate having you in here, my man. Everyone, make sure to check out Jordan Simpson on socials, on Twitter. He is the beauty that made, along with my man Greg, our WardyNYM postgame jingle. I haven't been able to use the postgame jingle much at all this month because the Mets effing suck and they're not winning ball games. So we'll get into that in 1 second, folks. Everyone's chiming in. Again, thank you all so much. Let me make sure that we're rolling here on YouTube as follows. We are, guys. Help us get to 100 likes by the end of the live show. Greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much in advance. And now, everybody, let's start off with a positive. If there's one positive, it is the following. Francisco Alvarez is trending in the right direction, folks. He will be having a bullpen session already beginning this weekend. So as soon as tomorrow, when the Mets are back in their homestand there against the San Francisco Giants, which I'm telling you guys and gals right now, this will probably be the series you see me cover the least so far this season. I have a very busy, very hectic weekend coming up, and between that, along with the Mets playing the way that they are, unless we see some really groundbreaking performances, do not expect much live shows from me up until the weekend's end. I may have some recap videos that come out depending on the result of a game, but rest assured, this will probably be the last live show, at least on YouTube, we have for at minimum the next couple of days. So just bear that in mind. I will be live on Bleacher Report tomorrow, probably around 1 p.m. Eastern as well, breaking down more on the Mets here and really if they should blow it up or not. So it'll be a continuation of this discussion here. And I was live on Bleacher Report earlier today, right around noon or so, breaking down my way too early picks for National League and American League Rookie of the Year. You can check that out if you go to the Bleacher Report app and go to MLB News. Just scroll down a little bit and you will find my live show. We were over a half hour long today on BR. A lot of fun. I really enjoyed the segment. 3 home runs and still lost. Yep, and let me reiterate this for you all in case you didn't hear me correctly. And then I'll get on to the Alvarez update in a second. The Mets, for back-to-back days, hit at least 3 home runs. Statistically, since the year of 1901, 78% of the time, the Mets, not just Mets, baseball as a whole, any team in the league has won those ball games when they're hitting 3 or more home runs. The Mets have managed to lose both those games when they basically had an 80% win probability in both those games. That just shows you how bad things are in Mets land right now, and that's why we're not only frustrated, but we have Mets fans already tapped out on the season, and it's only May 22nd. We aren't even in June yet, and we have fans completely done. Let's see. Meet the Mets. Meet the Mets. Always breaks WardyNYM Mets fans' hearts, says Donta, who is a Braves fan. So kind of stings, not going to lie, Donta. But unfortunately, you're not wrong. And what I'm not wrong with as well is Francisco Alvarez, again, will be taking BP starting tomorrow. So Alvarez, who can return to the Mets lineup as both their catcher and, of course, a great batter who can give you 25 to 30-plus bombs this season when healthy and when right, will be returning the Mets as soon as mid to late June. So we're still looking around a month away or so, maybe a little less, from Francisco Alvarez being back in this Mets team. When I tell you they desperately need him, I mean, that is absolutely an understatement. They have been a shell of what they once were with him. And while, yes, Alvarez doesn't have all the answers, there's no denying that Alvarez is the best catcher for this pitching staff, 1, and bullpen, and 2, Alvarez's lightning rod of a bat when he's hot can be the difference maker in so many of these ball games. How many ball games this past month have the Mets lost by 1, 2, tops 3 runs? More than I can count. And that goes directly in hand with not having a quality of consistency with their offense. And the big thing today, folks, what frustrates me even more, pisses me off beyond belief, is that the Mets beat up today early against a Tristan McKenzie, who has been absolutely nails, a lights-out, young, exciting right-hander that the Mets managed to get 3 early runs up against, all via the home run ball. And that's also because you don't drill Harrison Bader for no reason and expect him not to counter with the bomb the way he did, which was awesome. But the Mets actually were beating up on a very good starter today. That was a big takeaway, and I think there are some positives to take from that, but what happened for the ensuing remainder of the game and the bullpen is exactly why no one's really going to highlight the Mets actually having some production against a good pitcher. It might seem like a low bar because it absolutely is, but this is a Mets team that has done nothing good for the most part against any competent starting pitcher this season. The vast majority of their offensive production has come against either subpar starters or relievers players, good or bad or indifferent, that the Mets have beat up on later on in the ball game. Not the case today. They beat up early on Tristan McKenzie and then could not figure him out later on in the ball game. And then, of course, there we would see the relievers get the job done for Cleveland. So it's a frustrating way to evaluate this Mets team, because while you can take some of those positives, there is still nothing to justify losing this ball game when Jose Quintana gives up the game-tying run in the sixth that we'll get into. But how do you not counter? How do you not respond? All you needed was some insurance. The Mets had opportunities to secure said insurance, and they were not able to get the job done whatsoever today. So frustration at an all-time high. Fans tapped out already completely. Are we done with the season? Are we going to blow it up? Let's break down now inning by inning what transpired in this shit show you call a ball game, how us Mets fans can feel about it going forward, and again, are we buying or selling this team right now? Because I think everyone and their mother over this past month stretch, without Francisco Alvarez especially, is saying, sell everybody. I want nothing to do with you schmucks. Even Pete Alonso, I want you out of here. That's how so many of you fans are saying. How you doing, Stoney? Eugene, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Idea a trade to get Gourmet back. Nope, that's not how it works. Says that's down for a few days. No, Gourmet will never be in New York Metropolitan again, folks. Sorry to ruffle any feathers there. He was not happy when the Mets parted with him. That bridge was burned. Will not happen. I'm pretty confident in saying that too. So let's break down the ballgame. Let's see how the Mets lost this one when, again, they got early offense against Tristan McKenzie, and we cannot forget that. Wardy, why can't the Mets prove me wrong? The song Meet the Mets song and other YouTubers who make the New York Mets songs make you and Mets fans happy. Dante, we literally even have Braves fans getting so sympathetic that they're not even happy to see the Mets losing because it's hurting the rivalry. It's hurting the rivalry. Explosive, thank you for the kind words. I got a bunch of different Mets hats, folks, but you boys back in this typical setup. I've been on the move. A lot of things have been happening the past month in my personal life, but I will be in this setup more often than not now for the foreseeable future, so you guys will have the nice looking backdrops and my interchangeable hats, because my closet is to my left, and I got a lot of hats in there that I'll be rocking, interchanging, aside from the black Mets hat that I've been rocking like every game this season, because I love simplicity. I love that black Mets hat. I really do. But what I also love is the Mets gain early offense to get against a good pitcher, which is why I'm that much more pissed off that they lost today. And speaking of some good things here, briefly, shout out to our amazing sponsors, as always, at BetUS and so are MLB. Click the links in the description today to check them out. BetUS with all your sports betting needs. I mean, duh, if you're a sports bettor, why aren't you using them yet, right? We'll get into that. So are MLB, the best MLB fantasy game out there. Nothing like it on the market today. Check them both out. You can sign up today. Thank you all so much in advance. But Pete Alonso, Pete gets the scoring early for the Mets here with his 11th home run of the season. Pete Alonso in a walk year after turning down a 7-year, just under $160 million extension from Billy Epler pre-trade deadline right around a year ago or so now, is looking for a big payday this offseason, regardless on where it comes from and who it comes from. Alonso with his 11th home run of the year, that gives the Mets an early 1-0 lead. Brandon Nimmo would rip a single to left field there. Afterwards, DJ Stewart would rip a single himself. The Mets again have 2 runners on with 2 outs as Mark Vientos unfortunately flies out there to second baseman Andres Gimenez to end the inning. In the first there, we see Jose Quintana 3 up, 3 down, one strikeout on Andres Gimenez, the former Met turned foe, and he killed the Mets unfortunately today, and then a couple groundouts. In the second, we see Jeff McNeil, who somehow ripped a home run yesterday with an expected batting average of 150. So in case you guys are wondering what that means, McNeil should not have hit his home run yesterday is what it means. He got just enough on the carry on the pull to right, but today there was more authority behind this one. McNeil rips his second home run in as many days here. 3 home runs on the season for McNeil, gives the Mets a 2-0 lead, and a great stat that was thrown out by, I know my man James from the Mets the podcast on Twitter earlier. Jeff McNeil has 3 home runs this season, all of which have come in the state of Ohio. 1 of which in Cincinnati, 2 of which in Cleveland, and 0 at home. And just to tell you guys how drastic Jeff McNeil's home and away splits have been this season, prior to entering tonight's game, it is this drastic. I saw this on Twitter. Shout out to whoever I saw initially post this, but at home, Jeff McNeil this season has a 167 average, a 244 OBP, and a 205 slug for a 449 OPS. Absolute dog shit. beyond horrendous. Not even major league caliber whatsoever. On the road, however, Jeff McNeil, a 303 average, a 374 OBP, and a 438 slug for 812 OPS. So what does that tell me? All the more reason for why Jeff McNeil's time in Queens will be coming to an end. If not by the trade deadline, then most certainly by the offseason. I do not see a chance in hell that unless Jeff McNeil becomes a Jeff McNeil that we have not seen since peak 2022 for the majority of the season, I just do not fathom or see a world where he is on this roster, even if he's providing the home runs the way that he is right now, because we know it's not sustainable. We know it won't be consistent. And we know that we have depth in the farm to handle second base, among other infield positions, that can hopefully do it just fine, if not better, than what he does every day out there. But just to share some context with you all, that is how good McNeil has been on the road. Again, fantastic. A guy you actually can argue to want in your lineup, but literally, you want to sit him. I do not want to see Jeff McNeil have one single at-bat the next 3 days at home. He's obviously going to. He's going to start every day more than likely, but the numbers right there tell you, even with the sample size being kind of small early on this season, there's really nothing to justify to have him in the lineup at home. The same way that a lot of Mets batters unfortunately struggle with these significant clips away to home, and that goes directly in hand with a couple things. It's the pressure. Some of these guys really cannot handle the pressure of playing at home and handling the fans. That's a fact. Two, it's Citi Field, which is by all means not a batter's park. It's a pitcher-friendly park that we know, so the batter's eye is not appealing. My man Anthony Recker, former Met, turned MLB Network analyst that you guys can check out weekly on MLB Network. Shout out to the old podcast with Joe as well. If you know, you know. Man, oh man, would I love to run that back when the Mets are good again. So hopefully, not this season, maybe next season, we can get that discussion going again if our schedules align. But Rec first said to me, and I will never forget this, when he was playing for the Mets at Citi Field, the batter's eye was so trippy, not only for him, but for a lot of batters currently in that lineup. This goes in hand with the 2015 Mets, mind you. Like, Wilmer Flores was the only guy that seemed to have the flair for the dramatic at home, especially during that time, outside of Yoenis Cespedes when he was acquired. So unless you're like a true elite talent that's going to rip bombs no matter what, the way that Cespedes during his peak time in 2015 would, you really did struggle at Citi Field. And not a lot has changed since then. And that's why I'd argue, change the dimensions, do something. I know they have a little bit there in right field, but something's got to give, because Citi Field continues to be a problem for the Mets, and I know it goes beyond the fans. But as we break down here further, folks, again, the Mets are up 2-0 at that point. Harrison Bader would be hit by a pitch that was a clear, like truly as clean as day, looked like a hit by pitch with intent by Tristan McKenzie. I can't tell you why McKenzie did it, outside of him just being frustrated, giving up the bomb to McNeil, something that Tristan McKenzie is not used to doing. I mean, McKenzie's a stud. He does not give up hits. He does not give up base runners often. So for him to give up not one, not two, but 3 home runs today was really surprising to me, and something that I was happy about for as long as we could be happy about it. But Harrison Bader gets drilled right in the hip. He's looking at McKenzie like, what the fuck? Why did you do that? That makes no sense. Tristan, of course, goes about it the way he goes about it. Harrison Bader will then go on to steal second base afterwards. Alonso would have walked. No one else would do anything there. And after a clean work in the bottom of second, 1-2-3 by Jose Quintana, we then fast forward. We pass the third because no team does anything there. But in the fourth, in his next at-bat of the day, Harrison Bader makes Tristan McKenzie pay. He gets a slider right down the dick, and he rips that for his second home run of the season. Harrison Bader with the little swaggy trot, again, making it known that if you're going to drill me, those things are going to happen. And Harrison Bader, who I continue to not only be impressed by, the only thing I do not like about Harrison Bader is his lack of competency with running the bases. He's a really aggressive guy. He always wants leg singles into doubles, and while I appreciate that, he does not have the speed consistently to be doing it. Harrison Bader is not the speed demon that I think he believes and makes himself out to be at times. Yes, he's above average on the speed, but he's almost in that Lindor category, if not, maybe even not as good at times, where you're really wondering, why are we trying to leg first to third here when you know you're going to be out by a mile there? It just doesn't make sense to me, but I think this could go in hand with the Mets' bigger problem this season and having competency when running the bases. This is not just a Harrison Bader thing. How many Mets base runners this season, including JD Martinez and Starling Marte, having no effing clue what they were doing this past day or so, at second and first, we have seen countless examples of the Mets just not understanding the fundamentals of what it means to have proper base running. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And again, hopefully that is something too that changes in time. Wardy, please get Record on your show if possible. I want to hear him say that Omar Narvaez gets paid to suck. I say it, and I know he'll say it too. But he can't say it on MLB Network, but trust me, if Omar Narvaez is ever a topic of discussion, Rec is saying in his head, this guy's an effing bum. I promise you. You got to say things a certain way on TV, but we all know how it is in real life, and Rec is 100% that feeling. So we will definitely get Record on some point this season, even if it's just for a spot or two, because he's got multiple kiddos that he's dealing with and a full-time job and another thing going on. That is literally why we don't do the pod anymore, just because our schedules don't align whatsoever now. But yes, I will definitely reach out to Rec at some point in the near future. I need to see how my man's doing. It's been a little bit since I talked to him last. Let's see here, though, in the top of the 5th inning, we see WardyNYM with a walk, and nothing else happens there. And after a hit-by pitch to David Fry in the bottom of the 4th, it would be a clean inning of work for Jose Quintana. Again, Jose Quintana was brilliant today. The same way that we'll get into shortly, Mark Vientos, who is winning the third base job for the Mets, comfortably right now over Brett Beatty. We'll get into why Vientos is not only impressive once again today, but why Mark Vientos and Francisco Alvarez, once they are together potentially in this lineup, could be a monster of a duo to help propel the Mets in a lot of games where they usually falter. We know we need offense early and often, and we know we need it more than just Alonso. JD Martinez has yet to break out with the home runs. He's been going good gap to gap. He's been hitting for high contact, but he still has untapped potential there that we know. Same thing with Francisco Lindor, who still ripped 2 doubles today. But I'm telling you guys, and Fuzzy, again, the Fuzzy that we had on our channel for a post-game yesterday, basically at 500,000 subs already, one of the best baseball YouTubers, if not the best out there, was saying what we're all thinking. From an outsider's point of view, this Mets team on paper has so much talent, so it does not make sense why they have a lot of these fundamental problems. And the reason why they have these fundamental problems is because they need structure, and they don't have it. Again, when you have a different front office basically every single year, when you have a different coaching staff every single year, it takes a while to marinate and to get those things right how you want them to be. To expect a quick, fast turnaround is silly by us Mets fans. We have learned the hard way why trying to buy your team will not work the way you think it's going to, one, for short-term success, and two, having a philosophy, which is why 2025 is so important. It's not just about the ensuing offseason with Juan Soto and Pete Alonso and what the Mets are going to do, but it's about also partying with guys in this coaching staff that they're giving a leash right now to see what they have. And right now, I'm telling you, there are some guys that absolutely should be parted with. We talked about that. We have started to beat that drum, and we will again here shortly. So bear with me as we get to that, folks, everybody. But as we break down the ball game here in the bottom of 6, again, Jose Quintana was brilliant today until the 6th inning. And unfortunately, the 6th inning bites him in the ass just enough to screw the Mets here. And I am not going to gripe much about Jose Quintana today. Say what you will about the bomb he gave up. But seriously, Quintana kept the Mets in this ball game. And if it wasn't for their offense going lifeless after the game-tying home run happened, they still win this ball game. The same way that the Mets should have won so many games that they have faltered this year because they just cannot get enough consistency going. When you expect them to rally back, they don't rally back. When, they're losing by a lot of runs, they make it interesting. They reel you back in just to piss you off because they're going to lose in the end. And unfortunately today was the case where you had a 3-0 early lead. You might as well call it a sweep from a mile away like we did yesterday, because that would still be the outcome here. Tyler Freeman would rip his 9th double of the season there after a Austin Hedges single. Yes, the Mets somehow gave up a single to Austin Hedges, because why wouldn't they? And then Andres Jimenez, former friend now foe, rips his 4th home run of the year off of Jose Quintana. Lefty damage there, unfortunately. It ties the ball game 3-3. And then as we get to the 7th inning, Francisco Lindor responds greatly. He has himself a double of his own, his 9th of the year, just like Freeman there. So Lindor, runner in scoring position. Pete Alonso would then line out to Estevan Florial, and then WardyNYM would strike out there to end the inning. The Mets could not convert. Reed Garrett comes in to pitch the 7th inning, folks, and unfortunately, this is not the Reed Garrett that we were hoping to see. Reed Garrett looked human today. Again, it looked nasty with a splitty, but when he is leaving stuff over the plate, they're going to make you pay, and they did today. He gives up a single to David Fry. He then gives up unfortunately, after a wild pitch, which allows Fry to get to second base, he gives up an RBI single to Jonathan Rodriguez, and I do believe that is Rodriguez's first hit there for the Guardians. So frustrating to say the least. It's a 4-3 ball game now as we get to the 8th inning, where we would see the Mets do nothing until Mark Vientos rips his 4th double of the season, folks. Mark Vientos, everybody, already now has a ridiculous amount of extra base hits. And just to tell you how many he has, Mark Vientos, who got on base twice today, one via walk, if I'm not mistaken, the other just via, what he has been able to do going gap to gap. Mark Vientos already now has, folks, 6 extra base hits in 9 games. He has tied Brett Baty's amount of extra base hits in pretty much 40 less games or so. Brett Baty in 43 games this season has 6 extra base hits, meaning doubles or home runs. No triples in there, I don't believe. Mark Vientos has already tied that. Mark Vientos has been productive every single time that he has been in the lineup. Nothing can suggest to me that Mark Vientos should not be the starting third baseman going forward for the Mets. You have to ride the hot hand, especially when you have so many things going wrong for you. This is all the more reason to at least keep this lightning rod in there to make sure he doesn't cool off. And I hate to say this about Baty because I will always have a soft spot for Brett. I think we can get where we want to be with Brett. But right now, Mark Vientos is doing everything on the offensive and defensive end to warrant him being in this lineup. And furthermore, he's also hitting against righties and lefties. So it's not even one of those things where you can say, okay, can Vientos handle his own against right-hand pitching? Because he is showing that life of doing so. Do I think we're going to have reality checks? Do I think we're going to see Vientos go through some ruts where he just looks absolutely putrid? Yes, I do. But Vientos' power separates him from Baty in the way that even if he has defensive miscues, even if he is more of a DH than a third baseman, that power might just be enough consistently for the Mets to propel them in a way that Baty, and again, struggling so mightily to lift the ball and pull, again, with authority, that could be the big difference. If you're going to have subpar defense, you got to make it up for your offense, and Mark Vientos has done that. Vientos has not been a defensive liability nearly to the degree to warrant him being in this limited role right now. And while I think two things are true, you can be propelling great knowing you're in a limited role and abiding by that role, and also struggle mightily if you're given the keys to play every day the way that Baty has a lot. But it's about finding that balance. And right now, I think it makes all the sense of the world to ride the hot hand. So until we have reasons to really suggest and think otherwise, Mark Vientos should continue to get consistent reps. He should start at minimum 2 of the next 3 games for the Mets. They're at home against the San Francisco Giants. I expect Baty to start at least one of those games, should Baty not be sent down. But still, though, this is just an opportunity that makes all the more sense of the world for Mark Vientos to continue to get set opportunities and maximize them the way that he's done it such a fantastic job so far this season, folks. And then as we see there, unfortunately, in the 8th inning, after Adam Ottavino would replace Reed Garrett, he would strike out Tyler Freeman. He would hit Andres Gimenez, which is an uncharacteristic thing, hits him in the foot. And then he gives up an RBI double to the best third baseman in baseball, and Jose Ramirez. J-Ram's 9th double of the year, same as his former teammate and great friend Francisco Lindor, food for thought there, makes it a 3-5 ball game. Colin Manzardo rips his 5th double of the year, which makes it a 6-3 ball game, folks. And that's all she wrote. That is the ball game. The Mets would go on to lose this one by a final score of 6-3. Francisco Lindor, again in his homecoming, would rip a double in his final at bat of the day with 2 outs. So Lindor was, again, going gap to gap, was productive, but the rest of the team, unfortunately, wasn't. If you were not named Harrison Bader, if you were not named Pete Alonso, if you're not named Jeff McNeil, you did nothing on the offensive end for the Mets for the most part today. And that's a very unfortunate thing. Even Lindor's first at bat today was quality. He had like an 11 pitch at bat with Tristan McKenzie, which teed up Pete Alonso for a first pitch swinging ding-dong to kick off the ball game. I love Alonso up in the order, not having Alonso batting anything, if Alonso is not batting anything lower then, if Alonso isn't batting in the top 3, then he doesn't have a guaranteed at bat in the first inning. And if you're having bat 4th the way that he's been batting the majority of his career, you're losing that potential to have early power in your offense in that first inning if you go up, 3 down. So having Alonso there up in the order is productive for reasons exactly like this. You get early and often offensive production, and that is what I like to see. What are you implying with the food for thought comment? Lindor is playing poorly on purpose. That's insane. What are you talking about? No, I'm saying how Francisco Lindor and Jose Ramirez have the same amount of doubles this season, so just sharing some context for you all that are wondering how does Lindor's extra base hits maybe compare with some fellow players in the league. J-Ram, who's literally the best third baseman in baseball, not named Austin Riley, has the equivalent of doubles as him. That's all I was throwing out there with that. I didn't mean it to do a complete deep dive, maybe the way you thought I was thinking or whatever it was. But no less here again, the Mets lose this one by a final score of 6-3. And now let's hit the nail on the head with a couple things, everybody. everybody. Let's first start with taking a brief look at the pitching staff. But before we look at the pitching, before we get into what I liked and what I didn't like from Jose Quintana today and the bullpen as a whole, the hitting, again, is this team going to be more so of a full fire sale soon? Are they going to be making proper adjustments? Is the season over? We're going to get into all that shortly. But before we do, everybody, no worries, boss. Again, I appreciate you asking. That's the whole point of the show. I'm trying to provide context for you guys, and trust me, you guys say some shit in the comments where I have no clue what you're saying. I'm like, what? And then you guys clarify. I'm like, okay, it makes sense. Same way it makes sense for you guys to check out our great friends on the channel at Sorare MLB. And in case you guys and gals do not know Sorare MLB, Sorare is the best MLB fantasy game out there. It is free to play, but of course you can buy, sell, and trade your unique cards with your friends. And on the marketplace, you enter weekly tournaments with these cards, which is so much fun to utilize and build your roster. So again, if you guys like MLB The Show and true MLB fantasy, combine those bad boys together and you got Sorare MLB. You enter weekly tournaments as your own GM because you're building your roster with virtual cards that again are free to draft and enter these tournaments, and you can upgrade these cards by again buying, selling, or trading them on the marketplace for what your friends. And after you enter these weekly tournaments at least twice a week on Mondays and Fridays, you see how you do throughout that period of time, and if your players do well in real life, you will do well in your tournaments. So of course, if you have a bunch of guys that are on a locked and loaded team right now, like I got Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman, so they've been giving me a lot of production. They help propel me in these tournaments. If I do well in these tournaments, I win cash prizes, hundreds if not thousands of dollars. I win Mets ticket prizes, in which I gave away a bunch of Mets tickets on the channel over this past couple weeks on the channel, all for signing up to Sorare MLB by clicking our unique link down below and entering a free tournament. And that is all you guys got to do to enter these awesome giveaways. So yes, it might be doom and gloom in Mets land right now, but it's not doom and gloom for your chance to again win real cash prizes, ticket prizes, jersey prizes, and have fun interaction here in the community among Mets fans and baseball fans as a whole by checking out our great sponsor at Sorare MLB. So highly implore you all to do so after watching this one by clicking the link down below today. Let me know if you do, and that way we can compare and contrast our teams, because next time we go live, we'll probably be drafting our next team for weekly tournaments. I'll see how that goes. So again, shout out to Sorare MLB as always, and I appreciate you guys hearing me out on that one per usual. But hopping back into this one now, folks, let's talk about the obvious. Let's start with the pitching. And as we take a look here at the pitching, Jose Quintana, again, was far from the prom today. I don't have a lot of gripes to say with Jose Quintana. It's really one pitch. That's the difference there. And it's frustrating because Jose Quintana, I'd argue, deserved better treatment than what he got today. Really. And we're halfway to 100 likes, guys. Thank you all so much. Continue smashing that like and subscribe button for your boy. Really does mean a lot, everybody. And as we're going to take a look at, again, today's pitching report via my man Isaac Rothman on Twitter, that you guys can check out. Amazing pitching threads that he posts consistently for you all. And also, again, appreciate everyone for chiming in live on a replay, both here on YouTube and on Twitter. But my man Isaac here giving us the information that baby is a little bit beyond the eye test. It is as follows. Quintana today, again, used that sinker 30% of the time. Curveball was 30% as well. Four-seam fastball 21% and changeup 19%. The velo was up for his second straight start in a row, so that is a positive there for Jose Quintana. And as I was discussing with Fuzzy yesterday, I did not think Quintana was going to have a good start whatsoever. The Cleveland Guardians, according to Fuzzy, absolutely rake against lefties. Jose Quintana is a soft-tossing lefty that needs pinpoint accuracy in order to have great success. But Jose Quintana did a lot of that today, up until the sixth inning. He was heavy with his sinker and curveball usage today that we saw. He had a 30% whiff rate on the curve today, which is definitely a plus. Quintana rolled through his first 5 innings by painting those corners the best way he possibly can and relying on that infield defense for those ground ball outs. But, his hand was forced there on the 3-1 count to Jimenez, with J-Ram on deck. And unfortunately, the guy that you think wouldn't make you pay on the slugging front, and Mr. Andres Jimenez, certainly did. And that's what sucks most. Because again, if you don't hang that one to Andres Jimenez, the Mets probably win this ball game. But I digress. We can't look in the past because that's all us Mets fans do, is that's the only thing we could kind of look forward to, if you will. Oh, remember when the Mets were like this, or remember when they went through that? Because we're always looking fond on our Mets. You know what, guys? And again, this is a little different for me because I wasn't a part of the 86 Mets run. But as much as I love the 1986 Mets, I want us to stop viewing that as the end-all be-all. Like, why is it that we have to turn to the 86 Mets as everything? It's because that's the only true success this team has had organizationally in decades upon decades. That's the problem. Nothing that the 86 Mets did, but we've had no good storylines since then. We have literally had zero. I don't give a shit about the 2015 Mets and falling short. That was a fun ride. It helped really spark my fandom to be as diehard as I am now, but I couldn't give a rat's ass about losing the championship. I mean, why are we going to look back on those and be like, oh, what a magical run? Yeah, Wilber Flores cried because you almost traded him. Yoenis Cespedes was awesome during that run and then was lifeless in postseason. David Wright had some heroics, but again, that stenosis was a massive problem. All right? So I am done. I'm fed up talking about what has been there. I want to focus on what is ahead, what can be ahead. Let's have some immediate success. Let's have something to look forward to. Very frustrating. I really get, especially when there's rain delays and they just on SNY roll out the 2015 Mets highlight. Who wants to watch this? I'm sorry. I don't understand what is so infatuating about idolizing a team that didn't even win anything. That's another thing that pisses me off. Because again, outside my young fandom, there's no emotional attachment outside of that. That Mets team, again, lost to a Kansas City Royals team that was always going to win that series. They were in the dance the year prior, and they lost. Same way my New York Rangers were always going to lose to the LA Canes there in the Stanley Cup final a year prior or so because the Canes were just there 2 years prior and beat up on the Devils. They had the experience. Both those teams were never going to win. So I just want this Mets team to make new memories and have new success with David Stearns and hopefully Carlos Mendoza in a way that we can then down the line look at and say, wow, we had some really good baseball then. Because right now we have very little of it. And most Mets fans are already fed up with the entire organization as a whole this season. And understandably so. You know, so again, Jose Quintana, far from the Mets' biggest problems today. Just one bad pitch, unfortunately. And again, pulling Quintana with only 70 pitches and then putting in Garrett was an aggressive move. And unfortunately, that came to bite them in the ass. Would Quintana have been able to really handle himself after giving up that bomb? I understand Carlos Mendoza not wanting things to unravel. Unfortunately, again, you're depending on a Reed Garrett who did not give you what you want from Reed Garrett today. So that's where the pen faltered today. A mixture of Reed Garrett not having the stuff you'd hope for today, now having his ERA officially jumped just over 1 at 1.04 to be exact. You know, and probably should have kept Quintana in for the 7th and saved Garrett and Otto to close out things. But again, hindsight's 2020, right? Ottavino, again, unfortunately faltered there in his inning as well. And that's all she wrote there on the pitching front. A lot of frustration, everybody. So everyone watching live on a replay, folks, let me know in the chat down below. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate Jose Quintana's start today? For me personally, I'm going to rate Jose Quintana's start right around, he won 6 innings. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. He won 6 innings. He did his job. He did what he needed to do on that 1 home run, though. Just an absolute killer for a Mets team that we need something to work. You know, even if you're not going to have crazy offense, we just need something to finally go in our favor. And we were not able to get that. And that's why we're so frustrated by this team so much. Let's break your heart. They've already broken my heart, Dante. We are well past that point, my friend. Beyond past that point. I agree it's annoying during raid lacing 2015 highlights, and Johan no-hitter goes to show you how much little success we have. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Who gives a fly, pardon my French, everybody, earmuffs, kiddos. Who gives a flying fuck about the Mets' recent history since 1986? Truthfully, outside of just our emotional connections with our early fandom or the past couple of decades, I don't care. I don't want to fixate on it because it's losing. It's a loser mentality. This is a loser organization, and they will be the first to tell you that. There is nothing that you can look at with the Mets, even with Steve Cohen, and I love Steve to death. I firmly believe Steve will take us to the promised land. I think that we will get there with him, but it will be, again, still going through a lot of trials and tribulations during that time, going through hell and back before we get there, obviously, and a lot of frustration involved. I am fed up with focusing on nonsense. I want to be entertained. Baseball is supposed to be entertaining, yet the Mets are one of the most unentertaining baseball teams in all of Major League. And this is one of these things that goes well beyond the 2024 Mets, because 2022 Mets was very entertaining, but it wasn't even for the whole season. It ended in August. The magic with the Mets ended in August of 2022. We are going on a better half of now 2 years straight of just mediocrity and just inconsistent baseball where it's the same mental hiccups. It's the same piss poor base running. It's the same lack of defensive ability. Bader and Tyrone have handled their own. Brandon Nimmo made a tremendous catch and left today. I will not discredit them. Francisco Lindor is always going to be a Gold Glove caliber shortstop, if not Platinum Glove at his absolute best. Does not change the fact that we are fed up as fans. We are beyond fed up, and I cannot stand this shit. I really can't. The only reason why we're talking about it is because we're diehard Mets fans, and we need to figure out what is the future of this team going to be. Because right now, there's so many fans tapped out, and understandably so. as we take a look at the offense too, and then we'll get on to the hard-hitting questions I know you guys got today. Today on this date, they acquired Mike Piazza after calling WFAN every day until it happened. That's crazy. Did the Mets actually acquire Piazza on this date? That's awesome if that's the case. I got Mike right on the wall behind me. Again, the absolute GOAT, a true Paisan. We love Mr. Mike Piazza. If you know, you know. But as we take a look at the Mets offense today, this is what you got from them as a whole, everybody. Continue to smash a like that and subscribe on. Thank you all so much in advance. Live callers will be back next week, folks. Be on the look for that. Regardless, win or lose, we will be doing that hopefully at least one, if not multiple times next week. Just not tonight because very busy schedule on my end. But as we see here, the Mets, again, Francisco Lindor with his 2 doubles today, a 203 average, 634 OPS. Say what you will about Francisco, far from the Mets prom today. Pete Alonso, and I know he had his 2 doubles after the Mets were losing, but at the same time, we weren't losing by a lot. So I appreciate him being the one guy to seem like he gave a damn. And his first at-bat today was very good today, too. Lindor, least of my problems today. Pete Alonso had the home run, but nothing to show for it afterwards. 236 average, 779 OPS on the season. Brandon Nimmo, of course, 1 for 3, 220 average, 766 OPS. JD Martinez, another 0 for 3 strikeouts. Back-to-back horrendous days at the plate for JDM, who was red hot this road trip pretty much up until yesterday's start of the game. So JD, a 294 average, 768 OPS on the season. DJ Stewart getting the start in right field today, 1 for 3 with a 210 average, 770 OPS. Starling Marte, 1 at bat, 0 for 1, 260 average with a 693 OPS. Mark Vientos, Marky V with another extra base hit on base twice today, 1 for 3, 357 average, 1,133 OPS. Not too shabby in a small sample size, right? Jeff McNeil, 1 for 4 with the home run, 240 average, 657 OPS. Okay, Jeff, I'd like to see you do that outside of Ohio. Then I'll start to take you seriously. Harrison Bader, 1 for 3 with a run scored thanks to the solo shot. 281 average, 684 OPS. Say what you will about Harrison Bader as well outside of the piss poor base running. He has been, if not as advertised, above advertised for the Mets with his defense, which has been great, and with the high contact ability. Harrison Bader takes some really good at-bats, and he has a clutch gene in him that very few guys on this roster have consistently. With 2 outs, when you need a guy to clutch up in the latter half of this order to hit, I have faith in Harrison Bader far greater than I do at Jeff McNeil right now. Far great, even with McNeil's home runs, it doesn't change the fact that Jeff also had a piss poor at bat when we had a Lindor in scoring position later on this ballgame. When we needed the offense most, we didn't get it there. Again, Tyrone Taylor, I have a level of faith in as well. Taylor 1 0 for 1 today, 248 average, and a 630 OPS. Taylor's come down to earth quite a bit since his early heroics this season. That's okay. There's a reason why he's still a 4th outfielder at the heart of things, at the root of the core of things. But this Mets team, let's get on to the big discussion here, okay? And this is, are the Mets done? Is it time to blow it up, everybody? And my answer to this is, and I will expand on this further live on Bleacher Report tomorrow, so make sure you guys chime in. Go to the Bleacher Report app tomorrow right around 1 p.m. Eastern or so. If not, I'll let you guys know on the time tomorrow, but I think it's around 1, barring any changes. And then just go to the Mets tab on BR. Your boy's going to be live right there to chop it all down. Should the Mets chop this all down? Should they blow it all up? For the fans that want the Mets to blow it all up, I'm here to tell you it's not going to happen the way you think. No matter how much you want the Mets to blow something up, 3 games out of a playoff spot and May 22nd, when you're without your ace in Kodai Senga and without your stud young catcher in Francisco Alvarez, is exactly why the Mets will continue to tread water barely with what they currently have. Now, I think what can be had and what should be had is a flurry of moves to make this team better than what it currently is. Get Adrian Hauser the fuck out of this rotation. David Pearson can be activated as soon as May 27th. You got to see what you have in David Pearson there, because I think the Mets could really utilize him as a crafty lefty out of the pen to fill in for Brooks Raley, who's now out for the season with injury at bare minimum. Because Jake Diekman, I do not trust to have consistent outings whatsoever, nor should any of you out there, because Jake Diekman has proved to be a Jekyll and Hyde reliever, which he has been throughout the vast majority of his career. David Pearson should be given an opportunity in the rotation and or bullpen. I'm not really stubborn on either. I just want him to be given an opportunity to see what he can provide, because he has high life in his fastball, has a devastating slider when it's right. It's all about that command, which again is a broken record with this Mets team and freaking walk rates. I know. Trust me. I know. Get Jose Buto's ass back up on the team. The Mets deciding to have Adrian Hauser throw in the bullpen in Philly is exactly why Hauser stayed with the Mets, and they decided to end Jose Buto by sending him down for at minimum 10 days. When Buto, again, yesterday, on the day Adrian Hauser gives up 6 earned runs, Jose Buto goes 6 shutout innings in AAA with 7 strikeouts. Even at the MLB level, you're taking Jose Buto every day of the week. I am taking Jose Buto with 4 walks and 5 innings because I know he's not going to give up the runs that Adrian Hauser gives up. Adrian Hauser had 2 strong innings yesterday, and then he was dog shit once again. And I don't want to hear the nonsense, oh, it was some bad luck and this and that. We have given Adrian Hauser so much more than a leash that he should have had this season that I'm disgusted and truly baffled by the fact the Mets allowed him to start once again. Yes, I do think Hauser's going to get DFA, John. I really do. Why wouldn't he, with the way that he's been pitching, or really what I should be saying, lack thereof, well, over the past entire stretch of the season thus far. So there are moves that need to be had there. It is on the pitching end, Jose Buto, David Pearson, seeing what you have there. And then, again, probably post-trade deadline, if not sooner, especially if the Mets become more sellers than buyers, give Blade Tidwell a shot. You know, this is a year for the Mets where they're going to give a leash. They're going to give a leash to their young talent. But here's the thing. Are they going to give a leash after it's too little too late for them this season? Or are they going to be smart and savvy and try to give some kids leashes when they know they are still within reach of having a productive and entertaining season? You know, I think that's exactly what David Stearns is going to try his best to balance here. It is not easy to just say, okay, Harrison Bader, you've been productive for us, but you and Tyrone Taylor, we're going to trade you because we want to just play our outfield prospects now. That's easier said than done. It's not going to happen yet. We are still multiple weeks away from like significant changes being had to the active roster on the offensive end, I would argue, with the biggest acquisition coming around a month from now, if not less, with Mr. Francisco Alvarez returning. That's the big thing. We all need and love and want Alvy right now in the roster. Right now, I'm done on the season. Trade Pete, and I wish we could trade Lindor, but we can't, says Sean. I appreciate you chiming in. Peace and love. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. And again, the Mets are not going to part ways with Pete Alonso drastically. We also saw recent reports come out to suggest that Billy Epler was more willing to part ways with Alonso after he turned down his extension last season. But David Stearns, after being hired, told Epler, no, we're not going to be trading away Pete Alonso. Why? Because especially in your first year as Pobo, the last thing you're going to do is to try to ruffle feathers more than you already did with a fan base that is upset with the current status of a Mets team by saying, oh yeah, we're also going to trade away your best home run hitter. Again, your best in-house talent, power-wise, and who knows how long. Like, there's a reason why the Mets operate the way that they do, whether you like it or not. And that's why I'm telling you all, I'm all for blowing things up to a degree. I'm all for making changes. I'm all for giving certain kids a leash, like a Luis Angel Acuna. When healthy, like a Jet Williams. Like, those things make sense. When healthy, a Drew Gilbert as well. There are multiple guys at the AAA and AA level that I would like to see at the bigs at some point this season. But the problem is, it's May 27th. To 22nd rather, we're 7 games below 500. As disgusting as that is to say, you are still so within reach of a playoff spot that the Mets are going to use that again to their advantage. They're going to try to bounce back. They're going to try to win 2 out of 3 against San Francisco without any major changes being had. But if the Mets drop yet another series and find themselves 8 to 9 plus games below 500, I just do not foresee a world whatsoever where you do not make a significant change. Whether that's firing one of Eric Chavez or Jeremy Barnes, one of the co-heading coaches, whether that is making a drastic move and parting ways with Jeremy Hefner. These are guys that, again, were a part of the previous regime, not the David Stearns regime. And for the people that want to gripe and talk all this shit on David Stearns, everybody, you have to understand how much time and effort goes into a full overhaul of a front office and a coaching staff. And that's exactly why you give leashes to guys, at least for a year, like a transitionary year, to see what you have. And if you don't have success by a certain time, make the proper adjustments. David Stearns, say what you will about him, he has made a lot of on-the-fly adjustments already early this season. He has part ways with dead weight and Joey Wendell being the latest example. He is beyond willing to do the right moves for the organization with guys like Mark Vientos too. I don't have a lot of gripes to say really on the Mets organizationally on the decisions that they made to this point versus I've had gripes with the decisions maybe made on the field at times, or the lack of consistency in which you can only do so much as a team when it comes down to not only the players, but it also comes down to the coaching staff. And that's where, again, if the Mets have incompetence with their offense, I'm looking so much more on the likes of Chavez and also Jeremy Barnes than I am anyone else. Because yes, we can sit here and pinpoint how Pete Alonso has been underwhelming for a year plus now. We can sit here and say how Francisco Lindor has a slow start basically every single year and gets hot, but sometimes too little too late. For me, I know Francisco Lindor is going to continue to heat up. I know Pete Alonso is going to play better baseball than what he has so far. Mind you, when he has 11 home runs, it's not like Alonso hasn't been productive. He has been, and he's still on pace still for 40 plus bombs this season. But I expect more from Alonso. I expect more from Lindor. And that is where coaching staffs make a difference. You need to have these guys being able to buy in each day and have the right information in front of them. Carlos Mendoza is doing everything he can. He'll be the first to say we did not have a good road trip. It was a bad road trip. It was a brutal one. Okay, there's only so much he can do there with hyping up the boys when he's not the guy that's really focusing on swinging and the hitting mechanics the way that Chavez and Barnes are, again, on salary to do exactly that. So that is the next big thing, in my opinion. I've been saying this for the past really 2 weeks now. I really think some changes need to be had there. Because while hitting coaches might not be, again, the end-all, be-all, they do make a difference. They absolutely do. And having an organizational change-up drastically mid-season can be the type of fire to light under a team's ass to get them in a mentality that they're not currently in. Because right now they're in a mentality that they decide when they want to show up. And when they don't show up, they don't show up in bunches. They don't show up not only for a game or two, they don't show up for the majority of a series. And then they try to salvage a series where we're like, okay, you know what? You lost the first two, but you won the third one. So we're going to hopefully have that transition to the next series just to lose the next series. But again, salvage the series, right? You won the last game, so it's okay. The more the Mets drop these series like flies, the more this Mets team is going to dig themselves so far into a grave that, again, we're talking about throwing yourself in a coffin that you can't just get out by digging out and hopefully getting through that dirt. No, they have bolted that thing shut. You are screwed. Your hands are tied. They got you handcuffed in that bad boy. It is straight out of a serial killer scene from one of your favorite shows that you watch late night with your wife or with your family. It's just, you're screwed. It's not happening. Okay? The same way that the Mets are not going to get anywhere this season until they can buy in enough with each other. They have not done that nearly consistently. We see it. You see right before your very eyes when teams buy into a philosophy. What have the Cleveland Guardians done so well throughout their entire existence? Buying into their philosophy. As Fuzzy said it best on our postgame show yesterday, you know your role right away as soon as you get here. You know you're in a smaller market team, a smaller market organization with great newfound analytics, a great player development staff, and that's how they get the best out of their players every day. The Mets just made some significant hires at their front office in David Stearns, Chris Gross, and Andy Green. The problem, this is not a quick turnaround. This is something that, again, does not happen overnight, no matter how much you want it to. So while I have the utmost excitement about the Mets' future, right now in 2024, we have ourselves a big effing problem. And the big effing problem is a team that as soon as it feels like they have a rhythm going, it snaps and it's gone in a blink of an eye. There is no consistency. And there are aspects of this team that absolutely are similar to the 2023 team. And still, they are exceeding in certain pitching areas, but they have not taken nearly enough advantage of doing so. And my big concern, is that by time the Mets finally get themselves in a rhythm, it's going to be shades of 2019, where it's too little too late. You got on a great heater in the second half of the season, looking awesome, really thriving with the weather being nice. The problem is you already dug yourself a hole 10 games below 500 by the start of that stretch. So even if you're looming around 500, maybe that isn't enough, because maybe the rest of the teams in the NL picked up the slack by then. Things that you don't have control in. It's frustrating because we've seen this story from a mile away, and I feel like we are seeing it again. I hope and pray they can prove us wrong, but right now, I have the belief that the Mets will be buyers and sellers at the trade deadline, but it's leaning more sellers than buyers, right? If they're buying, I'm thinking that they could be buying an Eric Fetty type from the Chicago White Sox to help bolster their rotation. If they're going to buy offensively, what would even make sense for them on the offensive end? I can't see too much right now because they don't have a terrible lineup. That's the most annoying thing. This Mets team has talent, and that is where things are a problem. The same thing with the San Diego Padres, year after year after year, especially with Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Xander Bogaerts, when they had Juan Soto. How do you not make playoffs when you have a core group like that? You can have a strong core on paper all you want, but if they're not buying in together, if they're not in sync, if they're not in rhythm, you will get nowhere. And unfortunately, that is where we're finding ourselves with the Mets here, and that is why with the Mets losing them more and more often, fans will be more and more steered away from wanting Pete Alonso extended or here long term. And truthfully, Pete Alonso probably feels the exact same way, because what has the Mets done to give Pete Alonso a reason to want to be here long term? If I'm Pete Alonso, I'm going to get the biggest bag possible this offseason, and if that doesn't come from the Mets, I do not give a rat's ass, because it may very well come from a team that has a more promising not only future, but a current status. I could see Pete Alonso going to a rival club because he knows that team's going to have better success and consistency. Pete Alonso has endured, since becoming a New York Metropolitan in 2019, he has endured 4 managers. He has endured 4 GMs. He has endured 2 ownership. He has endured 2 different owners. Like, there's no sustainability here. And that's what Steve Cohen is trying to get to. But holy shit, is it easier said than done, that we have unfortunately learned the hard way. So when you look at Pete Alonso and his future, and for the fans that are like, I want this core blown up, trust me, folks, I don't think you're the only one that wants that. I think we got guys on this team that don't want to be here. I think we got guys here that are fully ready to jump ship and get the hell out of here, knowing that there is so much turmoil still with this team, knowing that they're going to be buying big in the offseason, and knowing that a lot of guys on the roster right now are just filler options. Luis Severino could be gone after this season, even if it's not warranted. Sean Manaea, of course, has his player option after the year, so he will likely be back. But Jose Quintana will be out of here, right? There are so many guys coming off the books at the season's end, which is why the trade deadline is that much more interesting to evaluate once we get closer there. But in the meantime, what do us Mets fans want? We don't want much. We want entertaining baseball, and for over a month straight, they have made me go out of my way to cover this godforsaken team, and they have made you, to all you unfortunate schmucks that have taken the time to listen to watch me, that rant and vent with me in these sessions, and endure this nonsense that we call again a baseball club right now. Because I do not care how blunt it is, how cutthroat it comes off. We are diehard Mets fans. We want exciting baseball. We want to be entertained. We watch sports to be entertained. When you cannot do the simple thing of exactly that, what do we have? We have very little to look forward to. We have the future, yes, but holy shit, us Mets fans, you know the old saying, well, there's always next year, right? Let's not start talking about that in May 22nd. Let's talk about just trying to have some entertainment this year and pushing for playoffs. And hopefully, God willing, if everything goes right down the stretch, crack that foul wild card spot and just see what happens. You know, the Mets get blown out in the first wild card round, I won't even be as pissed as maybe you think, because I know what the expectations were heading into the season. And I know that if they can even make playoffs right now, the way this team is looking, it'll be a godsend. It'll surprise us all. Because everybody that has been writing off the Mets early, everyone that's been overreacting, counseling, as you know, my friends on the We Gotta Believe pod will, because again, they're just, especially again, love Kev, but complete casual, just taps out so early into the season. We're like 2 weeks in, 0-5 start, you're already canceling on the year. I can't stand the fans that are already done with the year before it began, but I can understand why you have a lack of interest, because the only reason why I'm here is because I love this team no matter what. I love interacting with you all. It's my own therapy, believe it or not. When I'm doing these shows, guys, I get as much enjoyment as you do, because you guys help kind of balance me out. You kind of help keep me in check too with the team at times, and we just kind of feed off of each other's energy. So if everything else is going to go wrong, at least we have our fellow Mets fans to go through hell and back with. And I really hope that once we hit those highs, that we are riding high together, because while it's been few and far in between, when the Mets do play entertaining baseball, there's nothing else like it. When the Mets have things going right in Queens, it is something to behold. It is a jaw-dropping experience. It is a breathtaking experience. And it's something that, again, that is why we get emotionally fixated with the 2015 Mets. Why we get emotionally fixated with 2022. Because they just gave us entertainment. They gave us stuff to look forward to. Right now, we have zero of that, which is why I'm not opposed to people saying we should blow things up. I'm just here to tell you it ain't going to be blown up nearly to the degree you think, nor will it be as soon as you think. What I can promise you, more changes will be had in the near future with the way that this team is playing. Penn Mets, thank you so much for the donation, my man. We are going to get to your dono here shortly. But before we do, folks, let's just take a quick moment to hear from our second and amazing sponsor on the channel here, as always, our great friends at BetUS. Because in case you guys and gals do not know BetUS, BetUS is America's #1 sportsbook, folks. And we got a big slate of games tonight. And I'm not going to focus on the baseball. We're going to focus on the hockey. We got my Ranger fans in the biz, folks. The Rangers, as things currently stand, are the money line underdogs and the spread underdogs, folks. So what does this mean? In case you're wondering, in case you're not too familiar with sports betting, but you're curious, you would like to get involved by signing up with our great friends down below, click the link in the description. That way you too get a 125% bonus with your first 3 deposits if this is your first sign up, which means if you deposit $100, you automatically get $225 to work with, all with our amazing sponsor here at BetUS. And as you guys and gals can see here, the Mets have even odds, so right around 100. The minus 120 means that the Panthers are the favorites. So the Mets have slight underdog odds, and they also have the puck line at plus 1.5. So what does this mean at minus 275? So hate the odds there, but if you deposit $275 and the Rangers either lose by no more than a goal and a half, or win outright, you win an additional $100, so you come out with $375. So the odds at minus 275, I don't like that, for the sake of a bet turnaround. So I'm going to hammer the even odds here for the Rangers tonight. And again, this is a complete coin flip, everybody. So if you guys want to tail this pick, do it at your own risk. I have no clue what to expect from the Rangers and Panthers tonight. This is a heated battle. The Panthers have had the Rangers upper hand at times of the regular season. The Rangers have also had really good games against them. This is the Rangers' biggest test yet. While the Rangers are deemed by many as the best team in National Hockey League, they're still deemed by many and in the betting space as the underdogs among the Final Four still out there in playoffs. So my biased New York Ranger pick, I'm hammering them 100 to win 100. Let's see how they do tonight. Again, a big matchup. Again, you're not wrong any way, which shape or form. And again, guys, you can also hammer the live betting odds too with our great friends at BetUS. So make sure to do so should you wish, if you guys like to live bet the way that I certainly do throughout a game, especially the Rangers are losing by a goal or two. It's always fun to hammer for your chance to get back in that and win with some big odds. So shout out BetUS as always, everybody, for all your sports betting needs. And thank you so much for hearing me out. We appreciate that. We help you vent. You absolutely help me vent, Steven. You for sure do. You guys bring stuff out of me too that maybe I wasn't initially planning on discussing. So that's why I have so much fun doing this, no matter win, lose, or draw, because you guys are always going to show up. I'm always going to show up to be here for you all. And we just want to figure out together, how can the Mets get to where we want them to be? Aside from the immediate reactions where we're pissed off, where we're screaming our head off and all this shit, we just want to see the team succeed. Even the fans that yap and complain all year round, even as miserable Met fans as they are, they still want the team to be better than what they currently are. We're all in the same vision, the same viewpoint there. We just want to have entertaining baseball. Pham was right. We know Tommy Pham was right. Tommy Pham's a dog. I love Tommy Pham. Fun fact, everybody, since Tommy Pham has signed with the Chicago White Sox this season, the White Sox have had more wins than the Mets. So to think that clubhouse culture isn't important, to think that certain player mentalities aren't important, boy, oh boy, if you don't think that way, I got a fucking bridge to sell you. And it starts with Queensboro, because this thing is so accurate. Trust me, I know Tommy Pham is not single-handedly a difference maker to like the degree of everything, but there's a reason why they have been winning more since they've signed him, and he has been right in the focal point of that production. Tommy Pham is a dog. I will always love Tommy, and I will be the first to say that I have met Tommy Pham. I did meet him last season. I'm not going to disclose where I met him, but I did meet him in an atmosphere I was initially expecting. I shouldn't even say that. I was kind of expecting, if you know a bit about Tommy Pham and his personal life, but it was really interesting, and I've always been a Tommy Pham guy. I went from thinking Tommy Pham was the biggest asshole in the world who didn't know him much, and I just knew about him bitch slapping Jock Peterson, not be that. And then when he comes to Queens, learning a lot more about him, how he goes about himself, how he goes about media, how he records himself too to make sure that a guy cannot misquote him, which I think is very smart and important. Pham had a really rough life, and for him to get to where the point he's gotten has been very impressive. Say what you will about Tommy Pham, I will always be a Tommy Pham guy. He's a dog. Pemets, thank you for the $20 donation. Pemets says, I love this team. The individual players are not bad, but they don't mesh together well. I'm willing to sacrifice 2024 to build a core that can work together from 2025 and beyond. You and I find ourselves in the same boat. Because as much as we might like the thought that Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Jeff McNeil, and all these others thriving together, it's also fair to say it just might not work. Because nothing is suggesting that it will right now. And David Stearns is realizing that more day by day. Carlos Mendoza is trying to make things work with what he's got, but his hands are tied. He's a first-time manager. So, all in all, we just need to see this Mets team be a team that they haven't been since the 12-3 run. And I'd even argue something that they weren't even in the 12-3 run, which is consistently handling starting pitching from the opposing team. They couldn't even do that. They beat up on the bullpen a lot, which is why they had inflated numbers in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. It wasn't, oh, the rally Mets, they're just, you can't count them out because they go to the final out every time. It wasn't just that per se. It was more so because they couldn't hit a lick through the first 7 innings. And then they decided to wake up many times where it was too little too late, where we have seen to a higher magnitude so far over the past month. But everybody, that is going to do it for the live show. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I had a lot to say. I have a lot more to say too, but that in a nutshell is where we're at right now. If you want the Mets to be this complete blow up and sell big mode, they may in fact sell more than you think by the deadline. But as things currently stand, it's May 22nd. Yes, it sucks. They're 7 games below 500, and yes, it sucks knowing that if the Mets again win the next 2 out of 3 games, it still won't have much of a great feeling because it's not like it changed a lot in the standings until they really get on a heater, which they haven't since that 0-5 stretch was over with this season. But rest assured, we are all in the same place where we just want to see this Mets team be better than what they are. So for the fans that are more on the pessimistic front, I hear you loud and clear. I'm with you in a lot of ways. For my optimistic fans, hold out that hope, but just don't hurt yourselves in doing so. Know that this is still the 2024 Mets that can do a fantastic job on breaking our hearts. And with that being said, everybody, that is going to wrap this one up. Again, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch, listen live on a replay. We will be back live in the coming days. I will be live on Bleacher Report tomorrow, earlier in the day, so check me out there. If you haven't checked me out earlier on BR again today, too, make sure you do so on the replay as I broke down again my Rookie of the Year picks for the National League and American League. Broke down 10 players, 5 of which from each side. Had a lot of fun in doing so, and tomorrow will be a continuation of this Mets discussion on the pros and the cons or where they're at this point of the season. Kind of, a feeler on how Mets fans feel and ultimately what we think should or won't be done with this team in the coming weeks. That'll do it for me, though, folks. Thank you again.